Pahalgam, a picturesque town nestled in the Himalayas, known for its breathtaking beauty and serene landscapes, became the site of a horrific tragedy on April 22, 2025. Gunmen stormed into this peaceful haven, shattering the tranquility and leaving behind a trail of death and despair. At least 26 innocent lives were brutally cut short in the attack. The charming streets of Pahalgam, once teeming with life, were stained with the blood of innocent victims. The idyllic image of Pahalgam, once a popular destination for tourists and honeymooners, was forever tarnished by this senseless act of violence. The world watched in horror as news of the attack spread, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace, even in the most unexpected of places. The picturesque valley, now a symbol of sorrow, served as a grim testament to the human cost of conflict. The reverberations of the Pahalgam attack were felt far beyond the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas, sending shockwaves through the Indian subcontinent and the international community. This act of terror reignited long-simmering tensions between India and Pakistan, two nuclear-armed neighbors with a history marred by conflict and mistrust. The world held its breath, fearing the worst as the drums of war beat once again. The attack on Pahalgam was a stark reminder that the path to peace is often paved with unforeseen obstacles. It underscored the volatile nature of the region and the urgent need for dialogue and reconciliation. As the dust settled in the aftermath of the attack, the world waited with bated breath, hoping for a restrained response, yet bracing for the possibility of further escalation. The Pahalgam attack sent shockwaves through India, evoking outrage and grief across the nation. The Indian government, under intense public pressure to act, wasted no time in pointing the finger at Pakistan. Accusations flew thick and fast, with Indian officials claiming that Pakistan was harboring the perpetrators of the attack. India's response was swift and multifaceted, a clear signal that it would not tolerate such acts of aggression on its soil. Diplomatic channels were immediately activated, with India recalling its ambassador from Pakistan and expelling the Pakistani envoy from New Delhi. The message was clear. India was holding Pakistan responsible for the Pahalgam attack and demanding accountability. Beyond the diplomatic realm, India also took concrete steps to tighten the screws on its neighbor. The Indus Waters Treaty, a landmark agreement governing the sharing of water resources between the two countries, was put on hold. India's decision to suspend its participation in the treaty, a lifeline for Pakistan's agricultural sector, was a major escalation, signaling the gravity with which India viewed the situation. Adding to the growing list of retaliatory measures, India announced the suspension of all cross-border trade with Pakistan. This move effectively cut off the flow of goods between the two countries, dealing a significant blow to Pakistan's economy, which relied heavily on trade with India. The message was clear. India was prepared to use all means at its disposal to punish Pakistan for its alleged role in the Pahalgam attack. The accusations leveled by India were met with vehement denials from Pakistan. The Pakistani government, caught in the crosshairs of international scrutiny, maintained its innocence, vehemently denying any involvement in the Pahalgam attack. Pakistan's Prime Minister addressed the nation, condemning the attack as a cowardly act of terrorism and calling for a transparent and impartial investigation to bring the perpetrators to justice. Pakistan urged India to refrain from pointing fingers and engaging in a blame game, emphasizing the need for dialogue and cooperation to combat terrorism. Pakistani officials argued that jumping to conclusions without concrete evidence would only serve to further escalate tensions and undermine regional stability. The international community was urged to engage in constructive dialogue and play a mediating role in de-escalating the situation. Pakistan, wary of further isolating itself on the global stage, launched a diplomatic offensive of its own. The Pakistani foreign minister embarked on a whirlwind tour of key capitals, seeking to garner support for Pakistan's stance and counter India's narrative. The message was clear. Pakistan was determined to defend its reputation and prevent itself from being painted as a pariah state. However, Pakistan's pleas for a fair hearing and its denials of involvement were met with skepticism from India and much of the international community. The weight of history, marked by previous instances of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism, cast a long shadow over its claims of innocence. The Pahalgam attack had opened a Pandora's box of mistrust and suspicion, making the path to de-escalation a perilous one. The intricate relationship between India and Pakistan, often described as a Gordian knot, has been a focal point of South Asian geopolitics. These two nations, born from the same subcontinent, have found themselves at odds on numerous occasions. From the partition in 1947 to the present day, the tension has ebbed and flowed but never truly dissipated. Understanding this complex dynamic requires delving into the historical, cultural, and political nuances that have shaped their interactions. The wars, the peace treaties, and the ongoing disputes over territories like Kashmir are all pieces of a larger puzzle. And well, it's a puzzle that continues to challenge leaders and diplomats on both sides. In the end, the question remains, can this Gordian knot ever be untangled? Or will it continue to define the relationship between these two nations for generations to come? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, this is a story that is still being written. Beyond the battlefield, the economic rivalry between India and Pakistan has simmered for decades. Trade restrictions, tariffs, and economic sanctions have been tools of this ongoing Cold War. Both nations have sought to outmaneuver each other economically, impacting millions of lives on both sides of the border. This economic tug-of-war has not only stifled growth, but also deepened the divide between the two neighbors. The human cost of the India-Pakistan conflict is immeasurable. Families have been torn apart, and generations have grown up under the shadow of hostility. Refugees, displaced persons, and countless lives lost in skirmishes and wars. These are the enduring scars of this prolonged conflict. The psychological toll on the people, especially those living in border areas, cannot be overstated. It's a tragic reminder that the consequences of war extend far beyond the battlefield. Amidst the tension, there have been moments of hope. Informal trade across the line of control and back-channel diplomatic efforts have occasionally hinted at the possibility of reconciliation. These small but significant steps show that there is a desire for peace and cooperation, even if it remains largely unspoken. The people of both nations have often shown a willingness to engage and connect, suggesting that the seeds of peace are there waiting to be nurtured. The path to lasting peace in South Asia is fraught with challenges, but it is not impossible. Dialogue, mutual respect, and a commitment to addressing core issues are essential. Both India and Pakistan must recognize that their futures are intertwined, and that peace is not just a lofty ideal, but a necessity for the prosperity of the entire region. As we look towards the future, the hope is that both nations will find a way to coexist peacefully, paving the way for a brighter, more stable South Asia.